Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Irina of Busy May Studio, and today I'm going to show you a very simple tutorial, Procreate tutorial, based on my new brush set called Spirited. So in this tutorial, we're going to create this lovely landscape on our iPad using my new brush set. And the purpose of this tutorial is not only to make you familiar with this brush set, to help you if you decide to purchase it and to show you how to use all these brushes, but also to show you that you don't need to spend absolute hours to create a nice illustration, because the one I'm going to show you today is super quick, super easy, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy with all the stamping, textures and special effects. The materials you will need for this tutorial is your iPad, your Apple Pencil and Procreate installed on it. You will also need the Spirited set if you want to follow step by step. However, it's not a must. You can try and use some other brushes. Some of them might not be as easy to replace, like trees, etc. But the techniques, the tips and tricks I'm going to show you, they can be easily applied using some other brushes of yours, so that's fine. Also in this tutorial, as always, I offer you a free download of a couple of freebies. It's a mini color palette from my Spirited set, and it's also texture overlay, which I believe always gives the illustration this nice papery look. So if you would like to get those freebies, go ahead, go on my website www.busymay.com, and for a small favor of subscribing on my non-spam, not super commercial email, you'll get the access to my freebies library. So if you've not subscribed yet, make sure you go and do and download your freebies there. Also, if you would like to purchase the new brush set called Spirited, I'll leave the link down below, and especially for those watching this tutorial, you get 20% off with this code. So grab your iPad, grab your pencil, and let's begin. Right, we're gonna start with creating a new canvas by pressing this plus button. And I'm going to select screen size. I'm going to add the texture overlay, which you hopefully have downloaded already from my website. So I'm going to press this wrench icon. I'm going to select add, and because my files are saved on my iCloud drive, I'm going to select insert a file and add the texture overlay. Let's adjust it just to cover the entire canvas. There you go. And let's change the blending mode to linear burn. That's just my suggestion, but you obviously can experiment with different blending modes and choose whatever works best for you. Or don't use overlay at all, which is totally fine. Next thing we're gonna do, let's prepare our very simple sketch. So I'm gonna add a new layer, and from the Spirited collection I'm gonna select sketch and detail brush, and I'm just gonna roughly map what I'm gonna do on my landscape, nothing detailed. So I think I'm gonna have a log cabin somewhere here. I think it's gonna be stood on some sort of a hill, the foreground hill. I think I'm gonna have a big tree somewhere behind it, and I'm gonna add a couple of hills, like this one is just slightly further away, and the furthest away I'm gonna refer to it as a faraway hill. And that's it. That's all we need. I don't know if you can see it. It's just sketched really lightly. That's all we need for our landscape, like literally a few lines. And let's start coloring in. I suggest that we start with painting the log cabin, and for that let's make sure that we create a new layer and drag it in between the background and the overlay. Lock the overlay if you worry that you can accidentally paint on it, and let's paint the cabin. So I'm gonna use the golden fire brush, and I'm gonna start with coloring in the front of the cabin. The color I'm gonna use is from your mini palette. It's the fourth from the left on the top row, and I'm just gonna roughly color in the front part of the cabin. By the way, it's important to mention here that I'm not going to try and do any sort of perspective, because that's definitely not the style of my art, and it's not the point of this tutorial either. So in fact, I think the less perspective you create, the more interesting your illustration can turn out. So that's the front part, and I think on the same layer with the same golden fire brush, I'm gonna use a slightly darker color, which is right next to this light one, and that will be the adjacent wall. Also, because it's a log cabin, I suggest that we immediately create some sort of a like wooden log edge, which is literally that kind of stuff, like suggesting that there are wooden logs. And the same with this wall. Let's go back to our first color, and let's create this kind of like log type edge. You see, I don't care about the perspective, I don't care how it's gonna look like, so that's basically it. And let's make a new layer, and let's just drag it underneath, and with the same golden fire brush, just to stay consistent, let's paint the this part of the roof, which is like this brown color, the first one in the palette. And finally, let's create a new layer, and let's paint the roof of the cabin. Maybe let's put it on the very top, so the third layer of the cabin will be our roof. And I'll probably use birch brush, and the color I'll pick is this brown color, a dark brown next to the lighter brown. And I'm just gonna create, let's see, opacity. I'm just gonna create a line here. Cabin, and let's make the logs a little bit more prominent. Let's create a clipping mask to this layer with our front of the log cabin and the side. Let's clip it as a mask, and let's change the blending mode to multiply. The brush I'm gonna use is wind chime, because it's got this slightly woodeny texture, and the color I'm gonna use is this light color, same color as the wall itself. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna create, let's see, I'm just gonna create little lines. but I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm gonna switch to a darker color. I'm gonna go with this brown that we used for the wall. I'm gonna reduce the opacity of the sketch because I have a feeling that it's sort of like interfering in my vision. And I'm just gonna emphasize the logs here, repeating the direction of our wall. And let's, you know, like I feel like adding just a tiny bit of darker areas here. I just don't want this log texture to be lost on the front, but not too much. And now I'm just gonna add a little bit of highlights to the logs. For that, I'm gonna create a new layer. I'm gonna clip it as a mask, and on the normal blending mode, I'm just gonna grab the white color, which is not in the palette, but which you can just grab from normal classic palette. I'm gonna reduce the opacity a tiny bit, and I'm just gonna emphasize. And that's it. I'm not gonna do anything else. So now let's work on the roof. The roof will be sort of like wooded as well. I'm gonna keep the blending mode as normal, and with the brush called Raven, I'm just gonna grab this lighter brown color. I'm gonna reduce the opacity, like considerably reduce, maybe to around 45%. And I'm just gonna, with gentle strokes, paint the illusion of wooden boards on top of the cabin roof. And that's it. I'm not gonna overcomplicate it because it's just part of the landscape. It's not the hero of this painting. The hero of this illustration is a windy day, and you'll see why. And next thing, I would like maybe to add a little bit of darker areas. So let's go back to our front side. Let's create a new layer, clip it as a mask. Let's change the blending mode to multiply. And the brush I'm gonna use is hematite. It's a texture brush, which is like a grainy type. It's perfect for shading. So I'm not calling this process as shading because, as you probably know, I'm not a big fan of realistic painting and volume. I'm a fan to look at them, but it's just not the style that I usually go for. So I'm going to reduce the opacity, and with gentle strokes, I'm just going to add a little bit of darker areas here and there. And let's do the same with this triangle. I'm just going to create a new layer, clip it as a mask, change the blending mode to multiply. With the same hematite brush, I'm going to choose this darker brown color, and let's just gently add a little bit of texture just to add some depth to it. That's it. And let's in the same manner, let's add some on this part of the building, of the cabin. So with the same brush, the dark brown brush, I'm just gonna add a little bit of darker. That's it, just for the sake of adding some texture. And finally, let's add some details. Let's add a couple of windows, a door, and the chimney. So let's create a new layer, and the inside of the windows will be darker, and in the outside will put maybe whiter like window frames. Let's see how it works. So for that, I recommend going back to Golden Fire brush, which is because it's one of the best filler brushes in this set. And let's select this darkest brown, which is the third one from the left. And let's put a window here. Almost there. And let's create a new layer with the same, or we can go with Raven brush, which is quite a good filler as well, just slightly more transparent. Golden Fire is more opaque, but Raven might be more helpful here because we'll just need to grab our white color, and yeah, it gives this right amount of transparency with the opacity of 100%, size maybe around 10. I'm just gonna add illusion of the frame, not necessary. And let's put the chimney on top. I don't really care on what layer. Let's do on the same layer with this darkest brown, because like you can imagine, log cabin chimneys, they're usually like cast iron, something like really dark, and it's quite thin, something like this, literally a rectangle without anything fancy. So I suggest that we put all the layers into the same group. If you've no intention to work on this cabin later, you can go ahead and flatten the group. If you suspect that you might need these layers later, you can keep them. Now let's start working on the nature around our log cabin, and we're gonna start with the 3 hills that I mentioned in the very beginning. So we've got this foreground hill, we've got this slightly further away hill, the middle one, and we've got far away hill. We're gonna map them in color using different shades of green, and let's start with creating a new layer. I suggest that maybe even create it above the cabin. And for the brush, we're gonna select Precious Ore because it's got this like nice transparent texture. And the color I'm gonna select is this brightest green color, the very first one in the bottom row. And I'm going to increase the opacity to 100%. I'm going to increase the size to around, you see, like 80-90%. And I'm just going to fill it with this nice green color. See this brush, the more pressure you apply, the more pigment it leaves on the surface. That's what we need. Because this hill is in the foreground, it will be obviously more intensely colored. So with different directions, just add the little stroke here and there. So that's it. That's the base of our foreground hill. Let's create a new layer, and this time we're gonna drag it underneath the log cabin group, or flatten log cabin if you had flattened it before. And the shade of green I'm gonna select is this lighter shade of green. With the same brush, Precious Ore, I'm gonna slightly reduce the opacity, and with very gentle strokes, try not to press too much because this hill is slightly further away, so we might want to keep it slightly lighter. So you see the intensity is much lighter than the foreground hill. And finally the far away hill, or it might be a mountain, we're gonna create a new layer. It could go in the very back, so in the very bottom of your layer stack, because it's on the foreground. And for this, the faraway hill, the brush I'm gonna use is kaolin, and the color I'm gonna use is this like mossy green color. Let's try, with the opacity like considerably reduced to around 30% maybe. And I'm just gonna gently add it, because if you've ever seen northern nature, you've probably seen this effect that the mountains in the very background, they are almost like blending with the sky. So you definitely don't want to make them too intense. Seeing that, I'm thinking maybe this needs a little bit more color. Let's duplicate it. Yes. And now let's work on them one by one. So on the foreground here, on this hill, I'm gonna create a new layer above it. I don't need to clip it as a mask because I might want to go beyond it. I'm gonna change the blending mode to multiply, and the brush I'm gonna use is Tundra. And the color I'm gonna use is the same color that I used for this green hill. It's the very first one in the palette, and with the maybe opacity reduced to around 50%, with the size about 50%. Let's just, with these motions, I'm just gonna add some grassy texture here and there. Like literally imagine that you are coloring in with a coloring pencil. And I'm gonna leave it here. Next thing, I'm gonna add some layers on the middle hill and the faraway hill. I'm gonna add a new layer above my middle hill. Let's change the blending mode to linear burn. And the color I'm gonna use is Mystery Stone. Not the color, the brush. And the color I'm gonna select is this lighter green color. Let's reduce the size of it and the opacity. Increase the size, reduce the opacity. And I'm just gonna add some layers just for the interest, just to show that it's not like a flat hill almost made of ice, but with this like nicer motions. And that's it. And with this, the very one on the background, on the same layer, I'm just going to select this color, and with the Mystery Stone, I'm just going to add a little bit of darkness in the bottom of this hill, so we've got some sort of like the effect like from dark to light. And that's it for now. So now it's time to add some trees to our landscape. If you remember, when we sketched our landscape, at the beginning we put the like bigger tree behind this cabin. So for this purpose, we're gonna use one of the stamp brushes to start with. Because the tree is behind the cabin, obviously I'm gonna create a new layer underneath the cabin group. And the brush I'm gonna select is Lonely Tree brush. It's a stamp, and the color I'm gonna select is this darker brown. But so it doesn't merge with the roof of our house, I'm just gonna reduce the opacity to 88%, and I'm gonna stamp the tree, and I'm gonna drag it behind the house, and I'm gonna increase the size of it, and it's sort of like going to go off our picture, something like that. I still think it's maybe slightly too dark, So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to adjustments. I'm gonna select hue, saturation, brightness, and I'm just gonna increase the brightness and maybe change the saturation a little bit and the hue. Yeah, I kind of like this better. And just to separate this tree from the house even better, let's create a new layer, clipping mask, multiply mode. And this time let's select the brush called Soft Gritty. It's a grainy textured brush as well. I'm gonna select this kind of brown, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of darker areas to the tree, just so it's separated from the cabin. But on the other hand, I quite like that it's sort of like merging with the cabin, like making it one object. And I'm gonna just flatten this layers to get it out of the way. And let's add some leaves to this tree. So for that, I'm gonna create a new layer in case I want to change the direction of the leaves or something. I'm gonna select the brush called Windy Tree, and the great thing about this brush is that it's dual color. So if I choose this instead of this brown, I'm gonna choose this green, and instead of this green, I'm gonna choose this brown. And look how it works. See, it creates leaves of different hues of green and mixed with brown. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add some leaves to this tree, like to create the illusion that the leaves are flying away off the tree. So I'm gonna start with slightly larger size of the brush, and I'm just gonna go ahead and add some leaves, and then maybe I'll reduce their size a tiny bit and just add some smaller leaves. And I'm kind of gonna add them to this direction because the wind that we're gonna show in this picture, it's gonna go that direction. So that's about it. That's all I'm gonna add. And I'm gonna go ahead and merge this tree and the leaves. So that's our tree. And next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add some trees to the foreground of our landscape. So for that, because it's a foreground, obviously, let's prepare the foundation for it. I'm gonna create a layer on top of all the layers that we've created already. And we're gonna use the brushes of tree stamps here. So we've used the Lonely Tree brush, and now let's use the mixture of larch forest, misty fir, and conifer forest. There are only 3 stamps, but there is so much you can do with them, like interchanging different sizes, colors. I'm gonna show you what I mean. So I'm gonna grab the larch forest brush, and the color I'm gonna use is, let's start with this brown color, and I'm just gonna stamp the tree here. I can increase the size of it. On the new layer, why I'm creating separate layer for each tree, just to make sure that they are arranged in a nice way, and after I'm happy that when they are arranged in a nice way, I can go ahead and flatten them. So next tree, let's add another large forest tree, but green. I'm gonna select this darker green color, and I'm gonna choose the blending mode to color burn. I'm gonna reduce the size a little bit, and I'm just gonna stamp the tree here. It's gonna be slightly smaller than this one. I'm gonna arrange it very near. On a new layer, let's grab the misty fir, and I'm gonna use this lighter brown color, and I'm gonna stamp it here. Just size probably somewhere in between. Let's see different blending modes. Yeah, you can always kind of experiment with different blending modes, but I think I like lighten. New layer. Now this time let's use conifer forest, and the color I'm going to use is this darkest green color. Let's increase the size, and I think I'm probably gonna do this. A new layer, another large forest, and this time I'm gonna use this nice purplish color. I'm gonna stamp the tree, something like this. Let's create another conifer forest, but this time let's make it lighter. Let's use this green color and change the blending mode, I think, to screen or something. Yes, screen is fine. And I think I'm just gonna adjust the size a little bit. Yeah, I think we're almost there. And let's create another Misty Fur. And the color I'm gonna use is maybe this brown. Yeah, I quite like it the way it is. I'm gonna make it like tall. And basically that's it. So I'm gonna group these trees into the same group, and I'm gonna increase the size of them. Oh, before I do that, I want to make a copy of this group, because you will see in a moment why. So I'm gonna switch off the copy, and with this group I'm gonna genuinely arrange it on the foreground, just like this. See, I think maybe I'll push the cabin and the lonely tree a little bit down, just a tiny bit, so it's kind of like sinking in the trees. And let's just maybe remove this green color a little bit from the cabin. And let's keep working on our trees. So we've got another copy of the trees, and this time I would like to create like trees standing next to the cabin. So, but at the same time, I don't want them to look exactly as the repetition of this foreground row of the trees. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab this arrow tool, and I'm gonna flip them horizontal, and I'm just gonna reduce the size of them to create the illusion that they're slightly further away, and I'm gonna pull them down behind those trees, maybe a little bit, even a little bit more, something like this. Yeah, and maybe I'll add a couple of trees here, because it kind of looks like a little bit empty area. I'm just gonna grab maybe which tree is asking to be here. I think the Misty Fur one. Let's select some green color and plonk it here, and let's see if changing the color, the blending mode, I like multiply, and you see like it's kind of see-through a little bit. I'm just gonna play around with different levels of opacity, but that's not critical. So that's basically it. So this is our trees, and another type of trees, the third one, we're gonna add on the background. So for that, I'm gonna create a new layer, and I'm gonna use the brush called Faraway Forest. It's a very delicate brush. It kind of creates a tree line. So I'm gonna bring the opacity up, so that type. So I'm gonna reduce the opacity, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make the first line here. And I'm gonna grab the smudge tool. I'm gonna use the precious ore brush, and I'm just gonna smudge the bottom of it a little bit, just to blend it in with the hill. And another one, I'm gonna create a new layer, and with the same Faraway Forest brush, but with this color, I'm gonna create like a hint of Faraway Forest on the background, maybe even smaller size, so it's like literally a hint. Maybe reduce the size a little bit, and I'm gonna smudge the bottom of it, so it's kind of part of the hill on the background. And now let's do the fun part. We're gonna create the windy effect. Remember when we put the leaves on this lonely tree, I mentioned that they are blowing away that direction. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create the effect that everything is being blown down to the left because of the strong wind. So let's start with this Faraway Forest, this one. So selecting this layer, I'm gonna select this arrow brush, and I'm gonna select distort, and I'm just gonna drag this forest by the corner, just creating the effect that is kind of leaning the direction to the left. Let's do the same with this Faraway Forest. I'm gonna grab the arrow, and with distort, I'm gonna make it like sort of like go that way. And now let's sort these trees. So the trees on the foreground, I'm gonna flatten them, and I'm gonna choose the arrow, and with the distort selected, I'm just gonna drag them a little bit like this. See, because we don't want this to happen, because there are gaps here, so I'm gonna switch back to uniform, and I'm just gonna increase the size of it, so they're sort of like running away from the canvas. And let's do this layer as well. It's our trees here, so I'm gonna flatten them, and I'm gonna do the same, distort, and they're gonna lean with the very strong wind that direction. And this tree, let's make it lean as well, distort. And yeah, that's basically almost it. And now let's add some finishing touches, which will create even more windier effect. So I suggest that first of all we put the blades of grass on this hill, because it looks a little bit empty. So I'm gonna create a new layer, maybe on top of that hill. I'm gonna change the blending mode to multiply, and the brush I'm gonna use is grass blades, and the color, like any green color, maybe this one, like olive green color. And I'm just gonna add some blades see at the moment they're sort of like leaning this direction, but we want them to go the opposite. So let's grab the arrow tool. Because they're already leaning, we just need to switch them the opposite direction. So I'm going to select uniform, and I'm going to select flip horizontal, and I'm just going to adjust, like suggesting that these blades of grass are being blown away with the wind as well. I see this part here. Let's get rid of it. Any more or less solid brush like Raven with the eraser, let's just get rid of it. We don't need blades of grass flying in the air. And maybe add a little bit of different color. So see, adding a little bit more blades of grass. So that's it. So the grass is being blown there as well. Maybe now on the hind side, maybe add some here as well. Let's change to linear burn. And that's the grass. Now let's add a couple of birds flying in the sky far away. So I'm gonna create a new layer, and there is this frame brush called birds, which is a frame brush. So if you like use it as a line, it will be obviously create like a frame line, but nothing stops you from using it as a stamp. So I'm going to increase the size at full extent so I can play around with the size, and I'm going to plonk this bird here, and you can like arrange it flying somewhere above our forest, or I kind of like it further away, maybe somewhere there. And I'm going to duplicate it and reduce the size of it, like there is more than one flying. Maybe a little bit different direction. I might reduce the opacity a little bit, and maybe a third one, even the tiniest one in the very distance, far away. Yeah, some birds like mixing with the leaves. Why not? Poor birds being blown away with the wind. And the final finishing touch we're gonna create a new layer, and this one of my most favorite brushes is Mountain Wind, and the color we're gonna use is pure white. And I'm gonna show you what I mean. So first of all, let's create a smoke from the chimney, obviously being blown away that direction. Because the wind is going there. And let's also create like the airflow, just to indicate that it's windy. So I'm going to reduce the size a little bit, and with this like little waves here and there. I'm gonna add this sort of like flows of air, and basically just change the blending mode to screen, and basically that's it. That's our windy landscape is ready. You obviously can actually like perfect it a little bit, like for example the cabin. This is a cabin. Yeah, I'm gonna flatten it, and you see, so it doesn't stand like sharply on the ground. So I'm gonna grab the like, precious ore smudge brush, and with the full opacity I'm just gonna smudge the edge a little bit, like it's sinking in the grass a little bit. And same with the tree. Where is our lonely tree? It's here. So I'm just gonna smudge the bottom of this tree, so it's kind of like growing from the grass. And that's it, guys. The landscape is ready. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you share your beautiful artworks with me. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at my_busy_may, and make sure you tag me. And I also, at the moment, I also do a challenge on Instagram, which is a bird a day keeps bad mood away. So I decided to check for myself if this actually works. So today is day 3 of my bird drawing, and I've got quite a few people following this challenge, doing it with me. So I encourage you to join in and to use this hashtag and tag me on Instagram if you decide to take part. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. See you later.